and welcome to Social Justice Saturdays with the Radical Social Worker. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about allyship. So what exactly is an ally? What does it mean to be an ally? Well, an ally is a person who advocates for and alongside a marginalized group for the benefit of that group that they themselves do not belong to. So an ally is a person who's looking beyond their own self-interest and their own rights and looking toward building equity and social justice for marginalized groups. But the word ally is not a noun. It is centered around action. It is an action word. To be an ally, it's not just about thinking thoughts and wishing things were better. It's about actually getting out there, standing with community members, and doing the work alongside them and supporting them as best as you can. So let's talk a little bit about how to be an ally. Allyship goes far beyond just putting up a post on social media. All right, and hashtag love is love. Done. I'm an ally now. While social media is a really important tool in spreading social awareness and building social justice movements, posting on social media doesn't necessarily make you an ally. The reality is that it goes far beyond those simple actions. Allyship isn't necessarily convenient. It's not centered around your timeline and things that you like to do and things you feel comfortable doing. Being an ally means you're willing to stand alongside people who are going through hardship and who are battling for equity and basic rights. So it's not always a fun, convenient thing to do. You cannot give yourself the title of ally. That's not something that you can decide you are. That's something that you show, you demonstrate through sustained actions and not just when it's convenient for you or when it looks good for you. So for example, there's this thing called performative allyship. So that's things like going to pride parades, posting about MLK during Black History Month, but then really not doing anything else to try to make things better or to advocate for and with those groups that you post about or share about or talk about. Showing up to a pride parade is great, but what's really the purpose behind that? Is it to take pictures to show how woke you are and how much of an ally you are? Are you really doing it to stand beside the community? And then when things really go bad and when people in marginalized groups need someone to stand with them, are you willing to do that? So for example, when hate crimes happen against members of the LGBTQ+ community, are you there with them? Are you marching with them? Are you sharing news stories about those things? Are you talking to people about it? Or are you really just showing up when it looks cool and colorful and is convenient for you? A really big key to becoming an ally is you have to recognize and acknowledge your own privilege. Privilege is something that everybody has in one way or another. There's privilege because of your skin color, there's privilege because of your sex assigned at birth, there's privilege because of your economic class, there's privilege from how able-bodied you are, from how easily you're able to navigate to access services that you need. There's privilege everywhere. And in some ways you may be privileged and in other ways you may be oppressed. So for example, if you are a gay man but you're white, you have privilege in being white and a man, but oppression in being gay. So oppression and privilege are very complex related things, and the relationship can be difficult to navigate. A lot of times when you say the word privilege, people can start to get defensive because they think, well, my life hasn't been easy. But the reality is, privilege doesn't mean your life has been easy. It just means that certain aspects of who you are aren't going to make your life more difficult. But understanding that you do have privilege and recognizing the ways in which it can impact your life will help you be able to navigate allyship in a way that is able to set that privilege aside in some cases, and in other cases, pulling out that privilege in order to advance the cause under the direction of the people most impacted. So for example, when I'm doing work surrounding family separation and child detention, I know whenever law enforcement gets involved, I'm one of the best people to go and kind of handle that confrontation, because I'm invoking my white privilege, and I'm invoking, in that case, my female privilege of coming across as being non-threatening, right? Because of those social norms that we have. So in that case, I'm putting myself in between law enforcement and in between law enforcement and people of color, who some of which may be undocumented, some of which may be at greater risk for contact with law enforcement. So that's an example of when I utilize my privilege to benefit the community that I'm allying myself with. But there's also times when I have to step back, because my white skin doesn't necessarily make me the best spokesperson for that movement, when there are people better suited to be in front of the camera or do interviews or share stories. I work really hard to try not to center myself and to try to step out of the way, so that way better representatives can come forward. So knowing when to step up and when to step back, when to assert your privilege and when to move your privilege away from the spotlight, when all of that is relevant. And that can be really tricky to navigate. And I mess up all the time. I mess up all the time. It's part of learning and part of doing better. So what do you do when you mess up? Well, you apologize, you work to change, and you keep moving forward. Sometimes there's repairing that needs to take place with relationships. Sometimes people are really cool about it and kind of understand that that's just part of the process. And sometimes people do get really hurt by mistakes that you make. And that's all part of learning how to do this thing of advocacy and allyship. So what you can do is set that ego aside, try to make amends, and just keep pushing forward in a way that most benefits the cause that you're allying with. It can be really easy when you mess up to then decide, okay, this is too difficult, or no one likes me anymore, I don't want to keep doing this, I'm just messing up, I'm going to stop. But really, there's no reason to stop. It's just a matter of reevaluating, doing some inner work, and doing better, and trying to move forward in a way that is more sensitive and attuned to the needs of the community you're working with. So it's really about learning that balance and being willing to call yourself out, but also receive the call out from others when you're coming on too strong, or when you're really kind of stepping outside of the role that's appropriate for you. That's not always comfortable to receive that feedback, but being an ally is a constant journey of learning and growing and doing better. And so that means you're going to have to be willing to acknowledge when you mess up. Keep your ego out of it. Social justice and equity is not about you. If you're being an ally to a community, you shouldn't be concerned about what it looks like for you. It's not about you looking good and getting a round of applause and getting notoriety for the actions that you're taking. Sometimes those things do come along with ally work, but sometimes they don't. And the reality is that isn't really what matters. What matters is that you are putting yourself in a position that's going to benefit a community that needs support and needs people to stand alongside them. So let's recap. So an ally is a person who stands and advocates for and with a marginalized group that they don't belong to. Allyship isn't just about posting on social media. It's about sustained action. It's about being present when it matters most. So not just going to a pride parade once a year, not just showing up for the fun, pretty photo op events, but really being there when it matters and really sharing the news that's crucial to advancing a cause. Performative allyship happens when you're mainly focused on how it looks for you. So for example, if your idea of allyship is just going to a pride parade during Pride Month, so you can take pictures and post them on social media and demonstrate how much of an ally you are, that's performative allyship. Because you're doing something that makes you look good, but you're not really invested in the community that you're supposedly allying yourself with. Knowing when to step up and when to step back, when to use your privilege to benefit the cause, and when to move yourself out of the way so that way more appropriate people can be in the spotlight. Try to keep your ego out of it. Remember, this is not about you. This is not about you looking good or getting notoriety for the work that's happening. It's not about laying claim to a movement or anything like that. Allyship is strictly about the marginalized group that you're working with. And allyship isn't really a title that you can give yourself. It's something that is bestowed upon you by communities that you partner with through demonstration of action over time and dedication to a cause. Allyship sometimes means doing the work without the recognition. Because again, it's not about you. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and please be sure and keep your eye out for more. Be sure and visit us on our website and our social media, and stay tuned because there's lots more to come from the Diversity and Resiliency Institute of El Paso. Thanks, and have a fantastic weekend. Bye.